It's ready to read, November 10th, 44 minutes. Is that okay? That's perfect.
I won't read too long.
Thank you. Okay.
Welcome everyone to the South Russell Village Council meeting. Today is Monday, October 24th, 7 p.m. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Fiscal officer will take the roll.
Canton,
Here.
Kavanaugh. Here. Galicki.
Here.
Porter.
Here.
Bell.
Here.
Berger.
Here. We have minutes of the October 10th regular council meeting minutes. Any changes or corrections to the minutes? Do we have a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Kavanaugh.
Second.
Second by Scanton. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are passed. We have minutes of the October 18th special council meeting minutes. Any changes or corrections to those? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Kavanaugh, seconded by,
Second.
second by Porter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are passed. And we have visitors in the audience. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. We allow our visitors 5 minutes. What we simply ask you to do is to stand, give your name and address, and we time you when you have, after you've gone 3 minutes. I'll raise 2 fingers to let you know that your time is going to run out in 2 minutes. After that, council members may have questions, may have comments, or they may not. So, going first, anyone want to go first?
I'm Kathy Sabatello, 928 Sandusky Street in Conneaut, Ohio. May I come up here? I feel like this is where the camera is, yes? And I'll take a seat if you don't mind.
No, that's fine.
Hi, my name is Kathy Zapatello, and I am running for House Rep for the 99th District of Ohio. I am the Executive Director of the Conneaut Public Library in Conneaut, Ohio. I have been at that post as a library director for going on almost 20 years, so I'm getting close to that 20-year mark. I am past president, current board member, but I will be rolling off of that board at the end of this year for ARSL, the Association for Rural and Small Libraries. This is a national organization where we help those working in small libraries all across the United States to form partnerships for advocacy, for general outreach to the public and programming. And with that, I am very involved locally. And so I think at last count, I lose track of these things, but there's 9 active boards that I'm on. So I just want to go over a couple of these real quick so you can kind of get a better idea of who I am. First of all, I'm a Rotarian. So I've been a Rotarian for many years. I am not a current board member, but I am an active Rotarian. I am the past president of the Conneaut Foundation. This is an economic development group, and that's what we're really focused on, laser beam for Conneaut. We're involved with many different projects, some involving infrastructure, but more along the lines of economic development and adding new businesses and workforce development and things of that nature. I am there, and all of this is also detailed on my website, zapatello4ohio.com. But why am I running? I feel that for your representative position, this is your spokesperson. This is the person that represents you in Columbus. And this is carrying your voice forward. I feel I would be an excellent person for that job because of the position I'm in now as being a library director and knowing how accountable this office should be and the transparency that goes along with that. I've touched on it, it's economic development and infrastructure that is really where my focus lies. I'm involved right now with a huge partnership grant. We are using, we're doing a community revitalization through CD funds, and we are actually flipping the block that the library is on. And so partnering with the city, we're creating a civic gathering space where we're putting on an amphitheater, creating a park, widening our streets, but more importantly, improving the infrastructure there, and that'll help the whole entire neighborhood. That's sewer, that's new water lines, widening of our streets, and many other parts that go along with that project. So being involved with that, I really feel that I am in the right position to be able to continue to connect those dots and to work on a larger scale to help you guys to elevate your voice to Columbus. And on top of all that, like I think you've seen tonight, it's just really about communication. I am in a communication profession and I am a communication professional. And so I enjoy doing it, even the difficult conversations that I know come along to make things move forward. So that is me. I invite you to look into me a little bit more. You can Google or go to my website, but I really just appreciate your time and for having this evening, and I thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, questions, comments from council?
Kathy, could you introduce the two folks or three folks who came with you?
Oh, yes, well, I came in with two, I made a new friend. So we have Bill and Katie O'Neill. So Katie's been helping me on the campaign, and I'm sure everyone remembers Judge O'Neill, and he reached out right away and has been a mentor and a friend to me through this process, and I really appreciate it.
I'm a retired old guy now.
Well, it's not often we have a retired justice of the Ohio Supreme Court in council, so it's good to see you.
Mayor, can I say one word?
Let's finish with Kathy first. Comments or questions about Kathy? Okay, Mr. Judge O'Neill, yes, you can pull rank here.
I won't do any politics because I think that'd be inappropriate, but the reason I'm here tonight is just caught my attention. Katie was born in Geneva, Ohio. We're actually from Ashtabula County, and we moved to Chagrin Falls so that she could avail herself of the Chagrin Falls School District. But my first political campaign ever was for a state senator by the name of Marcus Roberto, who lived in Ravenna and wanted to be a senator from Conneaut. It was close to a 2-hour drive to get across his district. And then I found out that with the unconstitutional state rep district we now have, we all must accept, Kathy is in a district that starts on the Pennsylvania line beyond Conneaut and comes to Southwest Ohio, right? So, well, she's gonna come to council, I want to see you all anyhow. Thanks for the memory, guys. And else.
Katie, questions, comments you'd like to make?
Oh, well, I'm just so grateful that you guys are doing the work that you're doing. I was mentioning earlier about how the park on Bell Street has really become a part of the community and an anchor of community activity. And growing up here in South Russell, I feel like we always needed that. And, Chagrin Falls had their parks, their waterfalls, all the things. But I'm really grateful for the work that you have done to build that community space. And if I could do a plug for the things I'm interested in tonight, it's going off of what I've learned in Southeast Ohio. They in Southeast Ohio worked on aggregating their energy so that municipalities became 100% dependent on renewable energy. And so by 2020, June of 2020, 14 municipalities, small towns in Southeast Ohio are now using 100% renewable energy. And I look at, the work that you are doing here and wonder, if that building out here that you have your garage could have solar panels on it, to put the lights on here and help the police department. So that's my plug that I do wherever I go, in small towns. So just keep up the good work. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Katie. It's been a pleasure. In fact, before you leave, I need to take your picture.
Oh, wonderful.
It's a pleasure seeing you. Sir, I forgot to get your name when you came in. So,
it's Patrick Enders.
okay, Patrick, would you like to speak tonight?
For a bit, yeah, that's okay.
Okay, give us your address and let me get the
It's
5 minutes started.
14282 Sweetbriar Lane, Novelty, Ohio. I'm here to support Kathy Zapatello. I'm a practicing psychiatrist. I have been practicing for over 40 years. I'm on the faculty of Case Western. I'm a teaching position and I'm even psychoanalytic center as well. I believe that democracy is in peril. I'm sorry. Kathy is a librarian. I respect books. I think we probably all do. There's a concern that some people are interested in restricting what people can and can't read. I think that's a main concern of mine because being in psychiatry, you want to be able to have things that everybody can read at any time. It's really important. And I think that then connects with the ability for people to vote, to have rights. And I know this is a state representative, but I do feel we need more representation in where people's rights are more given consideration. And furthermore, I do think this is a very, we're in some peril. I firmly believe that. I think that facts are no longer given enough air to breathe. And I'm hoping that people like Kathy Zapatello will make sure that we get a fair understanding of what's going on at both the state level, of course, and of course national. And that's basically what I have to say.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your time. I really do.
Thank you for being here. Comments from council? Comments, any other questions before we say thank you, visitors, for being here?
Yes.
And say well, let me stop your 5 minutes here, but saying thank you for being here. Feel free to stay for the entire meeting. Feel free if you have something more urgent to do. At this time, this is a good time if you need to slip out. No, you don't slip out. So Bill will come out in the elevator. Chief, you take care of him. I'm gonna take a picture. Thank you all. I'm gonna take a picture, Katie.
Sometimes it has to work while they're in it. Is there like a little phone that I get? Okay.
Thank you.
I'm positive.
Thank you.
This is all temporary. I'll be back. It's all
Lots of
temporary.
time run by man,
We
right?
look forward to you coming back.
I will be back.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Have a great evening.
Okay, hold on, is it okay if I get a photo of Kathy with you guys here? No, can I get a photo of Kathy with the council? Would you guys mind that?
I didn't hear.
Can I get a photo of Kathy at the council? Just,
Yeah, I
we're
think-
gonna be, supporting and promoting civic, participation and
If
engagement.
it's nonpartisan, non-political, yes.
Well,
It's the fact that she's here.
It's all right. It's okay, Ron, it's all right.
Not me.
That's all right. Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you so much.
Bye, Katie.
I appreciate it.
Thank
Bye, take care.
Good luck.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah, so.
Keep you back in a minute. All right,
I know.
all right, the mayor's report. If you look, 28 different items. I will be as quick as I possibly can. Charlie Simpleman is again working to get his display, and he said he would take care of that. So I would imagine he may need some help, but when he gets time, he'll get that done. Still have, out of the 8 people, we're down to 4 people who are still interested in serving on the planning commission. Coming around to you is a pictures provided by Nick Casico. He's the head of the Chagrin Valley Dispatch. He's been in Florida helping with Hurricane Ian, and he has sent pictures back. And at the back of the pictures are pictures of the kids from the Chagrin Falls senior class who did their community service. They did that work on October 12th. They helped edge the Tom Harvey Butterfly Garden, and they worked on restoring some of our trails. Street Commissioner and I, we've had a man came up and talked to us about giving us $5,000. We said, how about solar panels on the back of the fireplace at the pavilion? They said, no. What they really would like is a flagpole, lighted flagpole. They said, we have everything covered except for East Washington. So I said, if that's something that you want to consider, 2 thoughts. Having the local electrician go out and take a look at it. There is no electricity there. So that would be one of the things. And then that would be a continual bill. The other thought is if there's something that could be done solar-wise. So I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if that's acceptable. But anyhow, they're still looking. I'd like to, I guess, once the money's out there, to keep the money in South Russell. So we'll keep looking at that and keep looking at different options. Betches didn't seem to appear something that they're really interested in. Item 6, Mr. Greenleaf, who lives just south of the retention basin, he wanted to know what was going to be done landscaping wise. Eric said we should probably wait, and since we're going to all get together and take a look at the Manor Brook property on December the 8th, he said we'd also get together with him and take a look. So I scheduled that for 8 o'clock in the morning. But we'll wait and see how things work out. It's also going to depend on the weather. You know, I think with some of the Manor Brook people, I don't think they're going to be walking, you know, if we got a foot of snow, it could be looking for trouble. But anyway, we'll try to get that, take a look at. The guy that offered to buy us to dig us a 10-foot deep pond, he's still waiting to see if he gets the job that he needs the 8,000 cubic yards of dirt for. We've told him we got a big pile of dirt. I don't think anything's going to happen, but it's not out of the woods yet. He is looking at possibly getting some of the silt that's going to be taken out of a couple of the community ponds. That would all be a private situation. Village yard sale the week before trash day. Haven't heard any objections, so at the next property committee meeting, I think we should probably bounce that off property and figure out, do we really want to do something like that? Next park meeting, we have thought about a tree for Great Pike. His daughter would be there, and working with Jerry and Ruth and the park committee and and his second wife, we can figure out something as far as a tree for Craig. Solon and Pepper Pike, they just had huge, obviously they're huge communities, but that's some of the things they did at their fall festivals, different demonstrations, different activities. Always trying to steal some ideas from them.
Did you go to those, Mayor?
No.
It'd be interesting to see what they do with the harvest dinner. I know Danielle is probably gonna shoot something at for saying that. but-
The harvest dinner, what I know from talking to Mayor Bain from Pepper Pike is they have their, what I guess I'd call their fall festival. And then that night they have a dinner, a harvest dinner where they sell tickets, and that's designed for the adults, really.
Okay,
Kind of like a
inside,
tent. They go big on the tents.
I'm thinking potluck. I don't wanna put it on, I'm thinking potluck.
I was just at my high school reunion this weekend, and they're going to be celebrating 200 years. And I got more ideas for you. You're not gonna.
Yeah, he was in class
We had a picture taken on some steps, and I felt sorry for some of those people who couldn't barely go back up the steps.
But just to finish on that, I'm
Yes.
not interested in selling jewelry and home decor. That's off my list.
But what about blacksmithing?
Blacksmithing's great.
Okay, these are some of the things that Dennis and I heard when we were in Columbus. Ohio has the 5th largest interstate highway system, the 2nd most bridges, and the 7th most roads in the country.
Wow.
Looks like we kind of paid over everything.
Second to who? Texas?
Texas has, Texas was the, I thought New York had the interstates. I can't remember who was number 1.
I don't think they named who was number 1 or 2, but they did tell where Ohio fell.
California's got to be up there.
Goodness. Hard to say.
Last 2 weekends ago, Chagrin Falls Historical Society, they did a costume tour of their cemetery. They've done it every year. And we're talking to them about doing something for the Warwick Cemetery to see if they do it and also to see how much they would want. The House Bill 512 seems to be locked up in committee, so Chief, I don't know if the police and fire are going to get extended retirement systems or not. So that's one of those things that said it could pass tomorrow, or it may just go into committee and stay there forever. We also talked at length about preemptions, where they've kind of taken away our control over plastic bags. Orange got a nasty thing about plastic bags, something about knives. On the other hand, they're giving us more control over solar and wind projects. Driving across Ohio on Sunday, and you see pro and con. I counted 25 25 wind turbines just going across about 30. And there's comments both ways about the wind turbines. Ohio Municipal League, I gotta give them credit. They talked about modernizing our zoning codes, but no one's ever talked about the lack of building inspectors, which is becoming even more and more difficult. Local government funding, you can see it went from 3.68% down to 1.68. And everyone's looking, thinking Ohio's got $2.7 extra billion. So they're looking at that. District 99, they had the one, they did mention this bill, that this was one of the bills coming up. And since it was affected us, I mentioned that. Chamber of Commerce now. Chamber of Commerce contact me last week, I think. They want to hold a food drive Saturday, October 29th, 9 to 1. It's the same day as our shredding day. And we need to do a motion of that, so we should probably put that down under the property when we get down to that issue. Talk to Tim about it, the pros and the cons. We can get that when we discuss it. Number 19, Wreaths Across America. They want to know if we want to buy wreaths to place at the graves of our veterans that are buried in our 2 cemeteries. I think last year at this time we had 13 veterans. I think the wreaths were $15, $20 a piece. And just wanted to know if we're interested in participating this year. So it's something to think about. They do want to get this program going though, because they want to have all the wreaths. Usually it's the second weekend. Usually, I mean, it's the second time they've done it, the second weekend of December. So that's going to be something to think about.
It was very nice at Evergreen last year.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
sounds pretty well. In your packets, I brought out the 2022 calendar, the committee assignments and the goals. Take a look and see what we got done, what we didn't get done. I think when you look there, you see like Chief, we had the traffic signal and we hope to get that on the agenda in April, and we're finally here in October. We're getting there. Tomorrow is public records training from 10 to 1. Tomorrow at 11 is also the dedication of the Throwing Meadows Butterfly Garden. It's a very interesting, it's more like a playground. And they've turned into a butterfly garden that was paid for by the Friends of the Geauga Parks. Wednesday, Cat's Den Garden Club. They go around every year and plant 1,000 daffodils. So they'll be doing that right along the tree line, doing it for free. Once it's in, you basically have no maintenance. Architecture Review Board has begun looking at standardizing parts of our requirements so that somebody who wants to do something architectural, we get too many, I don't want to say homemade, but inferior plans, blueprints, and we'd like to have on site. So here's how you do a sketch of a foundation. Here's how you do a sketch of a wall. So they've just started looking at that. But it's something that would make things easier for them. When people come in here and we tell them, you gotta come back because you're not prepared properly. The BZA postponed, they had a request for a food operation next to Living Lean, which is behind Hunan's. This is gonna be a difficult situation to pull off because it's not designed not designed for restaurants, but they're looking at having a type of a carry-out food service. So there were way too many variables. We also, at that meeting, the head of the chair could not be here, so a member sat in as the chair, and we had our first use of our alternate to the BZA. The Planning Commission, as you probably noticed, the Red Barn lighting has changed quite a bit. It's approved with modifications, the lighting, landscaping, parking, and sign plan, and did I forget anything else we approved out of that?
The sign plan, the parking plan, landscaping, no, it's everything there.
Okay. Chief and I met with we do village updates to all these homeowners associations. We spoke to the Bellwood Club. If somebody would like to speak to the Preserve of Chagrin Falls, I will be out of town that day. And then Ruth, you and I are doing the pop-off now. So we'll knock that one off. And the last one, this was probably the most interesting. Charles Hart from the United States Geological Society was here Thursday morning, and he does the testing of our wells. We've been with them for over 22 years. He's just signed up last year for 5 years. Monitored 6 different wells, all sorts of different monitoring process. Now, the issue is one of the wells, in fact, it's one of the most critical wells, is in an area where the well is only like 30 feet deep. So he wants to maintain that well to monitor, but the house has just been sold. So he's going to work on that and ask us if we would support by kind of bridging the information to the new homeowners. And the big deal there, if your well is only 30 feet deep, you're getting all sorts of possible contamination, chemicals, your lawn fertilizers, anything there. So he's asked us to really keep an eye on that. Then we spent an hour getting his opinion on the Central Retention Basin, 319 grant, and then the Manor Brook 319. He's going to comment later on to really give some further opinion. We were able to sit and chat, but he had some pros and cons, frankly, to what we're doing. So it was a good conversation with him. All right, to the mayor, questions of the mayor?
Big report.
Just one question, Mayor. For the Central Retention Basin 319 project, would that be potential sites for additional wells to monitor?
We didn't get there, but, I kind of agree. I think with the streets, it's like, we got this area. Why don't we do something besides just let it sit? Something, I don't know.
We have to recognize that will occasionally, we think, flood.
Yeah.
Right? But one of the things we had talked about in the conception of that Central Retention Basin is that if it was dry, it might be suitable for like a practice field for soccer, lacrosse, something like that. I don't think it went any further than just talk, but that's a possibility.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really, Charles is gonna send me some information on retention basins and 319 grants. I think he was probably an untapped resource. We heard from Chagrin River Watershed Partners, we heard from CT, but he would have been a third one because he had some different points of view, frankly, on what we're doing and why'd you do this, why'd you do that, why'd you do this, why'd you do that. Frankly, kind of overwhelmed me at one point, thinking. So he's going to get back in touch. Anything else on the mayor? Fiscal officer, you're up.
There were a couple things I just want to clarify from the last meeting. The village does in fact have all its legislation and minutes going back to the beginning of time, and we shared that with Ruth. So just so everybody knows, we do have everything. And it was interesting to see the minutes from the first meeting, so that, and then also that the village hall is not on the historical database because it moved from in the early 70s, so it doesn't qualify for that status. Regarding the ARPA funds, so as you know, we're using ARPA funds for the central retention pond. So a question was raised to me is, can we use the engineering for that project out of the ARPA funds? So I went to the state auditor and the solicitor, and you feel that you want to explain to them?
Sure. So I think there are two revolving funds that the ARPA funds pay for, or you can expend them on, and then with respect to the water, there's the clean water state revolving fund, and there's the drinking water state revolving fund. I think the central retention basin is clean water state revolving fund, and there's a series of eligible projects and eligible activities of any project that can have the funds applied towards. Some of those are planning and assessment in advance of a project, which probably would include engineering. But I do think that we would probably, if you agree that engineering, I just want to make sure exactly what it was that Eric did as far as what the engineering work was, but I have a feeling it would probably fall into using the ARPA funds to pay for that pre-planning work or planning and assessment work for the actual project. It's kind of confusing. The drinking water state revolving fund for sure allows engineering and design work to be included. The clean water is a little bit more vague, but I still think we could probably include it. And if council feels that we should include the engineering work that Eric performed for the central retention basin so that it is then eligible for our ARPA funds, but maybe we would just do some sort of resolution or ordinance, probably an ordinance, I think would be best, determining that in fact, council feels that it's appropriate to use these funds for the planning and assessment and or engineering work that was performed for the eligible project. It's kind of confusing, but otherwise it would be actually designated separately and not being able to have the ARPA funds used.
Danielle, how much is left of the ARPA funds?
After this project, I'm estimating there'll be about 57,000.
That would go a long way towards, or at least part of the way, for the central retention basin engineering costs, for 319, it seems to me.
Well, the central retention pond doesn't use 319, it's just the ARPA funds.
And that has to be used by the end of the year?
No, that's why I'm saying there's 57,000 left that I think we should put in the proposed budget to use for stormwater next year, because you're gonna have to use that and it has to be encumbered towards a project. I think by the end of next year and then spent by the end of 24. I have to go back and look at
Or
those
give it
dates.
back?
Definitely spent by 2024.
24 for sure, but it's the budgeting it for it, that's why I have to check that date. So I thought engineering could be spent out of there, but then, when you get grant money, there's a lot of tricks and you better read every line. So that's why I went to the solicitor and she said, well, that's, so we'd want legislation that you say it's okay to spend the engineering for that project out of that fund. Otherwise it would come out of this probably street maintenance fund.
I was gonna ask if it was possible, I don't know when the next public utilities committee meeting is, but maybe it can be discussed at the next meeting before, council, we could at least go through exactly kind of the, there's actually on the EPA's website, kind of like they give examples of what planning and assessment activities are that would be eligible for ARPA funds. Maybe we can see if some of what Eric did, or all of what Eric did, can fall within those categories.
I think Public Utilities was thinking November 4th, does that sound right? The first Friday?
Yep.
In November, 9 o'clock at Village Hall, and we could certainly take this topic up. I'll put it on the agenda for you, Danielle.
Okay, and I'll get you the funding paperwork that you can review that.
Yeah, we can send it to the committee, I think that would be helpful.
Okay. And then the other thing is I distributed a report to council along with the draft budget. I don't know if there was questions or.
Another banner month for income tax, it appears.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna be way above
We
prior
already,
levels.
I did amend the certificate of resources with the county this year as we were getting the larger revenue. So I did put in my report to you, kind of what the income tax collections have been. Maybe finance committee can meet, or like, what do we want to, we can't do it on the first round of the budget, but do we want to amend what we were estimating for income tax, which I believe I estimated $2,075,000 gross. So in my report to you, I showed you what we've gotten historically, where we're at now. There are some years that we do get less than the year previous, but after talking to CCA, it seems two of our top employers, these increased revenues seem to be from increased wages. So those we think will stay. The third one was primarily people working from home rather than the office. So that's kind of, we don't know. And nothing's guaranteed, but we do think it'll probably be higher revenue, but to what extent you want to budget, I don't know.
Questions of the fiscal officer? If you look at the monthly and the yearly documented there, remember Adam always said October was always kind of an interesting month. We are only 14,000 above the average for October. I don't know that income tax is slowing down, it could just be 1 month. Then when you look at the yearly, as Mark said, we're up 400,000 already with 2 more months to come. So it's still kind of a guessing game, but I think we've done well in figuring out what we're going to do. Any other questions or comments about the fiscal officer?
I liked how fiscal officer put the first minutes of the incorporation of South Russell Village, February 22nd, 1924.
Okay, we are at the Finance Committee.
All right, the Special Finance Committee meeting was held on the 17th of October in Village Hall. Minutes were submitted as part of our council packages. The mayor mentioned that he and I had the opportunity to attend the Ohio Municipal League Conference in Columbus, Ohio. And I just wanted to, and I mentioned this in the Finance Committee meeting, but I want to make council aware that from a finance perspective, you gotta, give a lot of credit to the financial stability of our village. Many of the participants are across the state of Ohio. They're from villages, small cities, suburb, semi-rural, rural, the whole gamut of communities. And I will tell you that through conversations with many municipalities, there are more municipalities struggling with finances and how to get projects done than there are communities like South Russell Village. So the village has been using its resources well. We have good fiscal accountability and spend our money wisely. And our tax base and the amount of money in the treasury are far above the average in Ohio. So well done to those in the village that put us in this position and continue to keep us in this position. Going on, I'd like to make a motion to approve the fund balances that were provided by the fiscal officer and reviewed by the finance committee. So moved.
Second.
All the discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the credit card report of 10/24/22 contained in our council package. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
I'd like to make a motion that we advertise as a village for a volunteer to serve on the Treasury Investment Board. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
All right, the next meeting of the Finance Committee is scheduled for Friday, the 18th of November. Subject to any questions, that concludes the report.
Okay, solicitor.
I have nothing to report.
Solicitor, I don't know if it's a misprint, I forgot to give you a heads up. The Plain Dealer said how Orange Village just voted they're gonna go back to live in-person meetings.
Yeah.
I missed
there's-
that. Orange Village
There's
did
definitely
what?
a couple villages and municipalities that have not at all followed the rule.
Go back to in-person meetings,
But do they have a charter? I'm not sure if Orange Village has a charter.
I think, I believe
And the
that.
charter, just like Chagrin Falls, they have a charter and they amended their charter, by referendum.
Okay.
They included these, yes. So Chagrin Falls is still having them, but it's a way that they decide, they vote on it, but it's definitely for their charter, they're allowed.
that they could do that. I wondered how Orange could do that. Okay.
No, but there's other municipalities that are just quite frankly not following.
Any other
Yes,
questions?
the charter.
Any other questions over solicitors? Street committee,
The street committee minutes for the meeting earlier this month were part of the last council package, so the only thing for street committee that I can think of is that, instead of the first Friday, November 4th, we would have our street committee meeting on November 10th, 7:30 at the street commissioner's office. Due to the unavailability of one member of the committee, and I'll let Tim know, just to make sure, but if nothing else happens, we'll have it November 10th, 7:30. We'll talk about the various issues the mayor's identified, as well as the forthcoming street programs. And the case loader, I hope all of council had a chance to see the new loader that Tim is talking about, and has, I think, has he ordered that yet, Neil?
Can't hurt.
Till next year? Okay. Yep. That concludes the report here, subject to any comments by Councilman Bell.
I have none, thank you.
questions of the street committee? Moving on, we're at the building committee.
Thank you very much, Mayor. The next building meeting will be Thursday, November the 3rd at 8 a.m. at the building office. Councilman Bell, anything else to add?
Just a reminder of our special meeting on November 14th to discuss the GOAT initiative.
Very good. That's all we have.
Questions of the building committee? Hearing none, we're at the safety committee.
Next safety committee meeting is scheduled for Thursday, the 3rd of November at 9:00 a.m. At this time, I just want to ask the chief, you're looking at a different look with minor changes to some of our new cruisers. Did you want to discuss that at this time?
Yeah, we're just looking at changing the graphics design a little bit. I'll pass out what we currently have and what we're looking to go to. It's just a matter of a slight color change, but the basic graphic is still the same. And by the way, one of our cars were received on Friday. We received the first of the 2 cars on Friday.
The one that was approved last week.
Yes,
From Montrose?
yes.
Nice.
Did they
Even the
get
next
that in here for you, or
What's that?
were they that eager to get them all?
Well, they had multiple carriers coming in and they had to get them off. They had no room for anything, so we had to go down and get it. Yeah.
So just as these go around, the yellow or gold lining that you see on the pictures of the 2 cruisers here, that's the old scheme. The new scheme is reflected in this blue line, so.
Don't look at the vehicle, just the graphics.
Yeah, just the graphics.
The pictures from Nick DeSico, they go that way and they have.
Right here. Let me make sure that's it. Yeah.
There you go. All right, subject to any questions, that concludes the report.
Questions of the safety committee? We were at the HR committee.
Thank you, Mayor. HR committee met on October 21st. I handed copies of the minutes to council members before the meeting. So I'll give you an opportunity to look those over and to make any comments on that. During our meeting on Friday, it was determined by the committee that we would recommend to council by motion to renew the employee's current health care plan with Mountain Mutual of Ohio The increase was 16.1%, if memory serves, which sounds high, but is well within the range of what renewals are happening.
Do we know what it was last year?
15, I think.
Was it 15?
I thought it was 16.
It was more last year.
I don't have it.
I want to,
There was a year it was
excuse me,
quite low
We
because
went like 3, 4, 5 years, it was between 1% and 3%.
Yeah.
Which was abnormal. We're still grandfathered, but our increases are based on our employees, not with the market.
I do know that Twin Valley Dispatch, there's 17%.
and that simply reflects an increase in healthcare costs that the insurance companies are absorbing because nursing care and doctors and everything else that goes with it has all gone up.
All right, that was your motion,
That's the motion.
and need a second on that.
Second.
Discussion on the motion to renew the employee's current health care plan with Medical Mutual Ohio. Discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passed.
Thank you. Secondly, I'd like to make a motion to hold a special meeting on December 16th, 2022 at 12 p.m. noon for the purpose of holding the holiday luncheon.
Second.
Second, discussion. We're hopeful that Adam will be there and others. Okay, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passed.
And we'll hold further HR business for executive session.
Okay,
Thank you.
Chris, I don't know that this applies to you or if it applies to the HR, but I thought it's probably a good spot. The motion to buy wreaths for our 13 veterans, would you want to do that out of HR? If we wanted to, or bring it up for a discussion and vote?
Is it an HR issue? Is it a cemeteries
Property issue?
for property?
Could be public utilities.
Well,
I'd say
and
properties.
I have no problem, but
I'm guessing.
the only concern I have is with consistency.
Yes.
That if whatever committee takes it on this year, that committee should take it forever.
And see, we're doing the veterans luncheon through HR,
Well,
so I think I
Okay.
hooked you.
and that,
The other choice is streets, because the streets guys are gonna put the wreaths out, right?
I don't know, I think volunteers do
We
it.
did
The
volunteers.
DAR did a lot of them, and they got, the high school kids helped at Evergreen last year. It was quite a project.
Because last year it wasn't,
It was old people.
wasn't considered a South Russell project as such. I
We
think it
didn't
was
pay for it.
Ruth and Daryl and somebody else, my wife, I think. And I thought there were 5 people.
I actually didn't do it. I
Oh,
should
then,
have,
okay.
but everybody I knew
Linda
did it.
Madden.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm a little confused, Mayor, just point of clarification. Wreaths Across America is a nonprofit organization that solicits donations so that they could provide wreaths for veterans' graves. They're asking us to pay for our own wreaths, the veterans that are buried in our cemeteries?
There,
It doesn't seems a little odd.
It's a charitable donation, is that what it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
So where does the money come out of the cemetery fund? Or,
well,
I'm
That makes
just
no
asking.
sense, because we're talking about both cemeteries, right? There's a few vets in the new one, and there's a bunch in the old one.
Dennis, I can't remember how.
okay, so let me do this. If we're gonna put this in the HR committee, and that's fine, HR will take it. So why don't you let HR make contact with Wreaths Across America, and we'll find out exactly what the program is and what they're asking for, and then we'll be back to you in 2 weeks to clarify the situation and to make a proposal.
Sounds good.
Good idea.
All right? Thank you.
I know it can be confusing, like, I want to do a wreath for my grandfather, but that cemetery is not participating, so,
You gotta have the bodies to get them, to put them.
yeah. Okay, anything else from HR?
No, sir.
All right, we're at the property committee.
Thank you once again, Mayor. There will be a joint property and parks meeting Thursday, October 27th at 7 PM here at the hall. Now, during the parks meeting, the agenda will be the festival, this past festival. What we did that worked, what we did that maybe did not work, and how we can improve the festival. The property committee, I'd appreciate this be added to the calendar that's being sunshine for the meeting. We'll be discussing the village yard sale along with how we're going to earmark the funds that were donated by the Pike family. Council lady, anything else to add?
Well, the money donated by Park Family, just so you know, if the park committee decides to do that, then I just have to call Mrs. Pike and verify that that's okay with her.
Very good,
Because they
Okay.
very good. Anything to add?
No, thank you.
That is it.
Since this idea of a Chamber of Commerce food drive on Saturday, that's being done on village property, so I think we probably need a motion to approve the use of that if you want to do it.
I'll make that motion that the village authorize the Chamber of Commerce to start food drive Saturday, October 29th, between the hours of 9
and 1.
PM, provided there is an indemnification agreement between Chamber of Commerce and the village, just like we do with the farmer's market and everybody else. So moved.
Is that okay with you?
Second the motion.
Have we done this food drive before, or this is the first
No,
time?
no, just they
Okay.
called like a week ago and said, hey, can we do it? I said, it's perfect, we're doing paper shredding that day, it's a good location. It's been moved and seconded.
Discussion?
Discussion.
I just want to make council aware, I think that Mr. Henry's got a great idea, and I commend him for it. When it comes to the vote, I'll be voting nay. And the only reason is, again, in the past 4 to 6 weeks, this is the third or fourth after-the-fact issue that's coming before council. I don't understand why we cannot address these issues beforehand. This event has already been advertised, it's out there on social media. It's nothing that we should potentially call quits to because the gate is open and the cow's out. But I don't understand why we continue to do business this way. So we have processes, we have procedures. I would just ask that we try to follow them in the future.
But it hasn't happened yet, so we are still before the
Well,
fact.
No,
to Dennis's point,
it's-
it's
I
a
know.
sign out there, it's on social media, and they take the risk that council could say no,
Yes.
right?
I get it.
But they've known about this, I imagine, for a while. Or are they not that, I don't know, forehanded?
I'm trying to see when I got a text. I think it came as a text or an email from the chamber. It was after our last council meeting. It said, hey, you want to do this? Can we do this? And I said, yeah, why don't you come on this day? I'll find it just to see when it is. I don't know, Dennis. As I said, it was not, if it had been before the council meeting on the 10th, I would have known.
Well, like I said, if it's not the first or only incident, it seems to be a pattern. And, I realize that I cannot abstain and or recuse from a vote. But I'm just against the continuing after the fact authorizations that we're being faced with at council. That's all.
Real quick, Solicitor, I know you had some concerns. Does the proposal, the motion as made with the indemnification, does that make you feel better about having the event here?
Yes, as long as it's very similar to previous, when you say indemnification agreement, I'm thinking of just the use agreement that we've had with Farmers Market, that we once had with MC Art Studio to use our campus. I'm thinking that is what you mean.
That's precisely what I mean.
Okay, that's
I
exactly,
could have
yes.
said indemnification, contribution, et cetera, but the idea here is we have the signed agreement between the chamber and us, the village rather, similar to what we have with Geauga Farmers Market. So if their truck explodes, it's on them, not us, even though it happened on our property.
So I do have a question as to who exactly are we contracting with? Because as I understand, this is through Bainbridge Area Food for Friends.
This is a chamber contacted me, and said they wanted to do this for the Bainbridge, yeah.
I know, so I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out.
I would say the
Really,
chamber.
even though it wouldn't be their insurance, that would be, we would add that, we would want to be added as an additional insurer, just like Farmers Market added us, just like when we had.
Oh, I would imagine this is twisted, because it's a chamber event, it's Mike Henry Realty, it's gonna be his truck, the food's going to the Bainbridge, maybe the food pantry, I don't know.
It sounds like it's the chamber running it.
Yes, it's
So
chamber,
that'd be the proper entity for it.
so as chamber members, we wouldn't have any working relationship with them for something like this anyway, would we?
Who would it be?
Since we are members of the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, I doubt
We don't have any.
Unless they have something, but I highly doubt it. Okay, so I can prepare that agreement. I know that you suggested you worked out a traffic plan or a.
Yes,
Do we have that, even if it's a rough sketch, I think that would be helpful.
Yes.
If you remember what the Farmers Market did, a diagram,
Yeah.
okay,
yes.
that would be really
It should
helpful.
be.
Who should I send this to? Should I send it to you and then we get three people?
Yeah, I can do that,
The director of the chamber.
yes. I'll take it to her.
So do you have to allocate
I
that?
just wanna make sure that they'll be the ones again
They didn't approach them, no.
indemnifying us or
Mayor says he's got
adding
a
us
plan.
as an additional insurer.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'm just wondering, would it be helpful to the future process if we can write down on a piece of paper what we would require for the use of the village campus? In terms of, somebody comes to us with a use that we would think, okay, it's acceptable to us. But we immediately hand them a sheet of paper that says, here are the things you have to do in order to use the campus. You have to give us an indemnification. You have to provide, who's going to be in charge, and contact numbers and all that other good stuff. And we put it all on a sheet of paper, and they look at it and they say, we can't comply with that. Okay, well then we can't let you use the campus.
I think we need to take a look at, I think, especially after seeing the pavilion, I think we should have some revisions on how to use the pavilion, how to use Village Hall, and probably the campus. And
Okay,
I think probably after Chagrin Jam, how to use the park too, we don't want someone coming next year.
great.
The real Woodstock.
But I think that would be helpful to sorting through some of these issues quickly without them having to be sort of on a case-by-case basis before council.
So like a permit application similar to the
Basically,
pavilion.
yep.
Village
Similar,
Hall, we
yeah.
have one for that.
Jerry, this is our job.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah, probably.
and since I suggested, I'm happy to get in the middle of it and help, okay? So, I'm not shirking
Well, no,
my
just trying to streamline,
responsibility. but-
as Danielle says, make it.
Well, you got a good point, and I look at the Girl Scouts, they were gonna come here and
Cookies.
yeah, they were gonna do something. They didn't come through. When they said they were gonna go to the park and do all this work on the trails, I forgot all about them because they didn't think they'd come through. Because they did a fabulous job.
Okay, but
But I don't know. Okay, a Girl Scout breaks her leg Yeah, I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't have an idea.
Right, well, and if you remember when Sheboygan Yoga wanted to use the campus, we had prepared an agreement very similar to what the farmer's market has, very similar to what, MC Art Studio had for that one day when they had an art show here.
Mhm.
So that is something, if you wanna look at that, that was really a standard agreement. Always includes like the date of the event, signage, traffic pattern, that sort of thing, and it also includes, always pretty much asking for a certificate of insurance where they add the village as an additional insured.
Did we have yoga here?
No, we did not.
Jared, get your yoga pants.
So let's get through this week then, solicitor, and then this is something, be an ongoing thing to get this changed around, so we can be quicker.
Since we're on, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Chris, I love your process improvement. I think it's huge. I would also request, kind of to Dennis's point, that he is onto something that we're doing things after the fact. If we could communicate to groups who want to have an event here, please don't advertise beforehand. Let us go through the process first, because it puts us in an awkward position. I mean, they're gonna have a food drive, which is wonderful, but Dennis, he has a point. He's gonna vote no, so then it comes out, heartless councilman says no to food drive, and that's not true. That's not what it is at all. So it does put us in an awkward position.
Mayor, it did occur to me, there was a time when the Chagrin Rocking Club used the village park. And they must have had, I remember like 30 kids firing off rockets. Fortunately, no one lost an eye or, got a, Saturn V model rocket embedded in their head. But it seems like maybe if the group wants to use the park, the north side or the south side, for that kind of event, perhaps we should have a similar application for that. Oh, the remote control air people.
Mm-hmm.
And they were worried they were gonna get turned down because they had these little gas-powered remote control airplanes, and our ordinance banned motor vehicles. And they were like, can we still do this? We have these little tiny engines, that take a drop of fuel on. But if people are going to use the pavilion, the campus, more and more, as we've seen, I think we're gonna get requests to use the park.
Yeah, I think,
Oh, and the lost child exercise, also use the park, something like that.
people's, yeah.
Yeah, but it was, I forget the acronym.
Was it our CAR team?
Yes.
No, it was a law enforcement exercise. I don't think that we have to provide, liability insurance because we have insurance through Valley Enforcement Group.
But it's, what I'm getting at is more organizations using the parks for a variety of things, not necessarily the cops, but, if there were some other group doing similar things, running through the woods, looking for orienteering.
Orienteering, I was just thinking of that, the
Boy
scouts.
Yeah.
Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts.
Biggest issue is liability, and that's why for the car show, we did the same thing. We provided
Exactly.
a
That was
huge
another.
liability insurance
Yes.
policy.
That's right, you had an agreement.
Yeah, we did.
That's right, I'm sorry.
It's, well, the
Another
Cleveland,
example.
Cleveland Hiking Club, say, we like to go down the interurban trail, but you guys don't keep it all clean. It's like, no, it's way too much work. We're not gonna, that part of the trail is beautiful, and then you turn left, it's a trip hazard. So it's like, no, we're not maintaining that. So can we do this? You'll get us through this weekend, then we'll have something for the property committee to work on. The only other thing, with this food drive, we could have had a special council meeting, immediately saying, hey, you wanna do this, approve this thing? Which would have been, so that you knew about it before it was coming.
I mean, we can specify in our applications how much in advance it has to be. I forget what the pavilion rental is, but it's a week. something
We
like
did, at the beginning of the year, we did do a draft. There was discussion about updating the village hall use thing. I think, for village hall use, HOAs, the way we operated for all those years, HOAs are pretty much permitted. So I think it's just fine tuning that. I don't think you have to make it very difficult. I think it would just be so much notice. Have these things if you're gonna have this, your insurance and all that stuff.
So you're just
It'd be
saying,
pretty
like, for example, if the Girl Scouts want to sell cookies, they got 2 weeks ahead of time or something like
Yeah,
that.
let us know.
Something like that.
And if you recall, they weren't allowed to come back and ask us because they have a process they were supposed to follow on their side. So there are rules to be followed. It's just better if you streamline and follow the process.
And I think of last Monday night, Bellwood's having their club organizational meeting, and it was a half hour of trying to get their Zoom, the chief and I, to get their Zoom to work for them, you know. And like it or not, we kind of ended up with a black eye because we're trying to do the talking and the people are calling in. It didn't go well. We'll just leave it at that. But yeah,
So,
we're still on this motion.
yeah, so we're done with discussion, then we're ready to vote.
Yeah.
It's like having journals.
One last comment though, you know, I guess we're still vulnerable if a group just goes in and starts using the park. That's something I guess we.
Well, not if
If
we
it's a
have,
rocket club, do we drive by and say, hey, you guys gotta stop, and we don't even know they're gonna be there?
Well, yes, why wouldn't we?
Well, yeah, but they asked in advance, well in advance.
but he's saying if they don't ask, if they just show
If there's
up.
another group out there, I think if there's a school group or something like that, they'll ask. But, I mean, you could have, I don't know, a baseball team, lacrosse team that, you know, gets bounced off their field for some reason, and they say, well, we'll just play at the park. You know, we'd like to know in advance that you're going to do this, if you can. But Dennis has a valid point, you know? Things happen in advance.
The Kempton Cross Country team comes here a couple times a year because they like our rugged course. So yeah, they were, in fact, I think they were here last week too.
Mayor, I'm not quite sure when it was, probably a couple of months ago. I happened to be there when they were there, and I spoke to the coach. And I introduced myself and I said, welcome to our park, but the next time you want to use our park, I would suggest you contact the hall, just so we know if you're going to be utilizing the park in practice. And we said, fine, no problem.
And possibly at the beginning of the season, they know when their practice dates are, right?
Right.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the Chagrin Valley Chamber of Commerce food drive on Saturday, October 29th from 9 to 1. All those in favor say aye.
That was with the identification agreement. If
That was
you
part
did.
of the motion.
That was part of the original motion, correct?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion passed. All right, when, we'll be in, you and I.
I'll send it to you.
Okay. We're at the Public Utilities Committee meeting. I
Proper.
I think properties.
thought you were done. Property, were you finished?
Anything else?
Yeah, we're done.
Okay, sorry.
Public Utilities.
Other than the November 4th, 9 a.m. meeting at Village Hall, Public Utilities has nothing further other than the minutes of the last special Public Utilities meeting were in your packets. And one of the things that came up is, resurfaced, I should say, was the Fox Run detention pond possibility. Public Utilities will talk about that at our next meeting, along with the ARPA fund issue, Danielle. That's all I have. Any subject to any comments by Councilman Berger?
No, thank you.
Discussion, any questions of the Public Utilities Committee? Moving on, we were at ordinances and resolution. It's the table. Do you want to keep it tabled?
Keep it tabled.
Tabled. Okay, HR, second reading for Adam.
Second reading for a resolution of appreciation for L. Adam Leachman.
Danielle, did we invite his family, kids and all that, or?
No, we don't. Well, no, we don't. We didn't, and I can. We don't usually do the whole family, do we? I guess we do it retirement. We usually only do this for retirement. Adam's kind of a unique situation because he went from elected to appointed to. So,
Okay, we are at the bills list, Dennis.
I'd like to make a motion to ratify the bills list of October 14th, 2022 in the amount of $95,401.59. So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Discussion. Timmy Sustar got an extra $50. Was that for the lights or the windows?
I don't know, he does a
He
great
was, I
job.
think it is right, he's $550 a month now.
550?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyhow, he was gonna bill us for doing the windows.
Yeah, he does, when he does extra stuff, he does bill extra.
Okay. All those in favor say
I
aye.
need a roll call.
Roll call.
Canton,
Abstain.
Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Good catch.
Kulicki.
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Bell.
Aye.
Berger.
Abstain.
Motion passes. We are at new other.
Canton,
As you know, my wife and I just came back from vacation. I want to thank the police department, for keeping our slaves safe like they keep all vacationers' property safe. So we appreciate that. You're welcome.
is that all you have?
That's it.
Kavanaugh,
I had occasion to speak with Anastasia, the reporter from the Spring Valley Times, briefly, and we're going to talk next week over how she can give us a little coverage in the newspaper. And she is our reporter still. She just hasn't been able to attend. So I had a nice conversation with her and told her what I wanted, and we're going to meet.
and anytime there's things you want in there, I can do a media release to the editor.
Okay,
And
thank you.
then those we don't pay for. Kulicki.
No.
With any other, Porter,
Nothing.
Bell,
None.
Berger.
Okay, I'm advised by a note from the solicitor that as opposed to executive session, I need to have this discussion on the record. So we will do that here with your permission. For HR, as part of your packet, you were given a document called pay schedules. And this relates to the tiered salary system that we have been working on for the past year, and that we have contracted with Gavin Manser to assist us in making sure we do this right. So this is a draft. I simply wanted to put it before council so that it did not come to you as a surprise. But that this tiered system includes 5 steps, beginning with what would be probationary employees on the left as the 5 steps, and the most senior step is step 5, which we would anticipate reaching within a 5-year period. So, these are the positions, these are the current numbers as we anticipate them, and we would be asking council, not at this meeting, but at a future meeting, to approve adopting the pay schedule as listed.
Where is that? I'm sorry, I'm missing mine.
This is the one that you got on Friday
Yeah,
at the HR meeting?
I didn't bring it.
Okay, well, that's all right. We don't need to talk about the numbers, but this is the methodology that we're adopting. And what we're suggesting here is not that every new employee has to start at step 1, but that if we bring someone in who has experience that would justify starting at a higher step, that needs to be expressed so that the arbitrariness of where they start and how employees advance through the system is taken out, and it becomes a very transparent and hopefully easily managed process. That's the goal. So I would invite you to look this over, and we will have more discussion at a future council meeting here before the end of the year. We'd like to implement it for January 1, okay? Consistent also with that, the fiscal officer has just handed you a report. This is called the State Employment Relations Board. This is simply a compilation of both negotiated or bargained, collectively bargained wage increases, and also those from communities where they are not collectively bargained, and collected across the state, divided up by regions, divided up by size of the communities, et cetera, it gives you some indication of where those numbers lie in terms of what other communities are thinking of in terms of increases for their employees. Again, this is a subject that usually comes up at the last minute for council, and it's one where we don't have a lot of documentation, but and I will certainly give credit where credit is due, and this came to us from Councilman Carroll during his time last year, and we followed through on it. It's a public document available on the internet, but it gives you some information to look at in terms of the range of increases that are being offered, and therefore it's a starting point for discussion when we have that, hopefully very quickly in November. Yes, we will want to do that. So I wanted you to have that so you could review it and be prepared. Questions?
Is, this is, we've entered our third year talking about this tiered salary schedule. Looking back, should we have gone to an outside consultant earlier?
I don't think so. I think we were moving along, but what happened to us is we got involved in so many variables, deciding, how review processes played into it and what have you, and it got very confusing. And I think it was very good that we got an outside consultant when we did, because we had enough information, we were ready to roll. They were able to very quickly put their thumbprint on it and say, this works, this doesn't work, and here's how we need to adjust it. So I think our timing was pretty good. As far as
Gavin was good.
Gavin Manser was.
I'm sorry, is it Gavin?
It's Manser Gavin.
Budzik. I apologize. But no, it was very good, and in an hour's time, was able to sit down and we were able to walk through it and create the draft that you have, which we anticipate, subject to comments, that this would be the final proposal that we would use.
I'd make one note.
Yep.
The increases in 2023 that are listed here clearly don't take into account consumer
Inflation.
price index.
Well, I understand that. I understand that, and that's one of the issues. But I also want to remind council that the village is absorbing a 16.1% increase in the cost of healthcare, okay? And looking at that as an increase in costs, and I'm going to speak out of turn, and I apologize, but we did the numbers on Friday. What was the annual increase in medical care costs because of that?
For the, as a whole, I think, what's it, like $34,000?
$34,000 increase.
Sorry, she's done.
Annual medical care costs.
So with 17 employees, basically,
Yes.
an extra $2,000 pay raise.
Okay, so those are things that have to be taken into account. So, as I say, I'm giving you the information ahead of time so that we can have the discussion at the next council meeting.
So for an employee who makes $50,000, that $2,000 effective pay raise equates to 4%.
4%, that's correct.
And CPI is at, I don't know, 8, 9, something like that.
Well, and we understand that the contracts, the agreements that have been made that are reflected in this report, obviously are a year behind the CPI. And that the 2023 numbers will reflect that significant increase.
Well, a number of these are union contracts
Right.
that are negotiated years in advance. They're going to be howling.
Yeah.
At 2.23.
Yeah, well, I understand that, and that may not make sense, but again, I give you, at least there's something for a basis to have a conversation.
Yes, it's data and relatively scientific.
Right, and so I offer that to council for what it's worth, for your thinking.
We'll be ready on the 14th.
Yep, because we'll have to have that conversation.
Okay.
Okay, and subject to that, I have no other business.
Now, we're gonna meet though with Budzik again, aren't we?
Yes.
Because he's also doing a salary comparison per position to make sure what we currently have things.
Mhm.
line up properly. So that would have to be possibly adjusted.
There may be some adjustments for
Right.
that.
Do we have a date for that? Did we
No.
set a date?
Not yet.
Is this all from $1,400?
Because we did a lot of that footwork before.
So,
Mike Carroll
Mike Carroll
played
did
a
it, he really did.
substantial role in that.
He did, for sure.
credit where credit is due, absolutely.
Anything else?
Are we
Did we go through
doing,
everybody?
are we doing executive session?
Before we go to.
Did you go through the new business with everybody?
Mhm.
Here, just so that you can get an idea of how some things happen, this is Tuesday, October the 11th, 1:29, this is from Jessica. Hi there, looking to do a stuff the truck event on Saturday, October 29th, from about 10 till 2, where we have people dropping off food for the Bainbridge Food for Friends. Is that something we're able to do that day? So that's how it comes so quickly.
So the day after our last council meeting.
Yep. Executive session, I think we need an executive session. I forgot to bring that whole property.
Mark has it.
You got it? Oh, wow, okay. Yes,
You
please.
need bigger glasses.
You do need my glasses. Please review, no. I recommend that council move into executive session and, wait a minute.
8:21.
I move that we go into executive session and include the mayor, the fiscal officer, and the solicitor, so that council may have a conference with the solicitor to discuss pending or imminent litigation involving the village pursuant to section 121.22 G3 of the Ohio Revised Code, and to discuss the possible purchase of property pursuant to section 121.22 G2 of the Ohio Revised Code. So moved.
Second.
Mark, can I just ask you to amend it to include the chief? As long as he's sitting in the room.
He loves
Should have
staying.
gotten out before. I'll amend it to include the chief as well.
Thank you.
Moved and seconded.
Canton.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Galicki.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Powell.
Aye.
Berger.
Let's go back at 8:27, give everybody 5 minutes.
Okay.